welcome to Brazos Valley Magazine. I'm Sharon Colson, your host, and I'm so pleased that you've joined us today, and I think you will be as well. Of course, this is a community and public affairs program, and every week it's my pleasure to introduce you to who's who and tell you what's new in the Brazos Valley. Today you're going to be meeting an author, Guantanamo Remembered, and it'll be a Guantanamo you may not have heard about or thought about for a while. Lots of things to talk about, but to begin with, we're going to be talking to the author of this book, Guantanamo Remembered. He is Dr. K.Campbell, and he has joined me in the studio, and I want to welcome you today.
Well, it's an honor to be sharing time with Sharon Colson.
And of course, Jack and I are old friends from College of Education days.
Yes. And you look the same as ever.
Thank you very much, and you do. So we're just having a good time thinking about the past, and that's really what this book is about, Jack. As I looked through it, and I have to tell our audience, I thought, now what do guys talk about when they're planning a reunion? And of course, they talk about people they remember and events and maybe embellish here and there. And that's what you've done. Talk a little bit about when you decided to write this.
Well, I've always been interested in writing, but when I went into teaching, I had to spend all my time preparing and researching. But when retiring, I went back into fiction. I want to assure you that all these stories are fiction, especially the ones where the sailors are off base, really off base.
And I'd have to say those sounded pretty real, Jack, so I don't know about that.
I left out the salty language.
Thank you. But it is, and when we talk about Guantanamo, today's audience is thinking about where it's a place to hold prisoners, but it was so different in the days that you're talking about.
Oh yes, it was good shore duty. I had been on a heavy cruiser. This was back in the Korean War, and it was very good duty, and the climate is just beautiful. You can wear shorts during the day and have a blanket at night. But we all felt like prisoners a little bit, I think, too, then.
Well, and I guess you were to some extent. The Navy does sort of keep a hold on you, but you had a lot of freedom. When you, and of course, I feel like I know some of these people now, Woogie and others that you've mentioned.
Woody, the guitar player.
Yes.
How about Crash Gordon for a pilot, that's name?
Absolutely. You guys label them all really, really well. And when you put these stories down and you're reflecting, you had a conversation with a lot of fellows before putting all this down. Talk about how you found them and elicited those responses.
Well, you know, I have never seen a single one of these people after all these years, but I remember them so well. And then I have always had an imagination, and I put stories together, and I thought, you know, when old sailors get together, a lot of cocktails are stirred up and memories. And that's why the cover has a martini with airplanes flying out of it. Of course, a lot of the memories they wish they could forget.
But that is what makes it feel real in looking at it. And of course that speaks to your skill in the literary form. You've taught it, but you've demonstrated it, which is even more incredible, I think, personally.
Oh, well, I try to use fiction to tell truths, if whatever the truth is.
And that's in your mind, isn't it? What truth really is?
I taught philosophy.
Of all the characters that are in this book, and talk a little bit about the book and the characters themselves, and maybe your favorites.
Well, might just look at the table of contents for a moment, and the Return of the Eagles is a story of what happened to the plane that never came back. Remember the MAME? The sailors all remembered Mame's Bar on the Cuban side of Guantanamo Bay, and as I recall, she served rum and rumba and flesh and ghosts. She had ghost stories.
Oh my goodness.
Let's see, this Trail of the Cuban Butterfly might interest people. One of the sailors had a love affair in Cuba and left her, and he thinks he might find her in Miami, you know, as one of the Cuban refugees, and he thinks he might have left her with a child. Well, that's another story. The Flight Fantastic, I think, is cute. These couple of sailors save their money, and the squadron has a rum run to Miami every once in a while. And they went to Miami, got into civilian clothes, rented a convertible, and played Playboy to some college girls. Millionaire Playboys, they claimed. Of course, the story didn't end with the weekend. The female contraband, you wouldn't believe a sailor could smuggle a girl aboard a man of war in a sea bag. You wouldn't believe that.
I wouldn't believe that, but I'd believe they'd try.
The daughter of the squadron is a real love story, and the young airman fell in love with the commanding officer's daughter, and it wasn't acceptable, and he was shipped out, his letters returned, and he never saw his love again. But the commanding officer's daughter is going to speak at the reunion.
You know, all of this just, I hope we have got our audience attention, and they're going to want to come and find out more about Guantanamo Remembered. The book is available from local booksellers, but there's going to be a signing at Carousel Books here in town on February the 18th at 11 a.m. Our time flies, Jack, but it's been great to visit.
Oh, well, this is a story about flyers, and time flies.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much.